Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Everything I could to improve the show today. Everything. Including blocking your car.
Blocking my car, stopping at oncoming traffic, yep. Incoming traffic.
I thought to myself, desperate times, desperate measures. If I could keep you out of the building or tied up with the police.
It's not good when they know you by name, literally. They don't even say license and registration. They just pull in, Mr. Lord again?
Oh.
Like Tim Taylor at Home Improvement. He already had his coffee cup ready and everything when he hit the emergency room.
Yeah, well, it's what bothers me is that you have an attorney on retainer. All right, so it's just incredible. The transfer portal opens tomorrow. As Nico turns, there's not going to be evidently a North Carolina option. So that's out. So Tulane and UCLA appear to be the two key spots for him as potential landing spots. The bottom line is on all of this is going to be the ability of Penn State's roster. But I mean, the Nico situation is interesting.
Sure.
I mean, it's interesting. Lava is sitting there, and in the power play they attempted the pull, and they overplayed their hand, and now but that's an intriguing story. Remember, we are in the era at the moment between now and July 1st where there are no limits on NIL. Okay? All the other rules go into effect 2.5 months from now. That's why you're seeing, in some cases, bigger potential paydays. I'm not going to say overpayments because it's not up to me to determine what the market is. So I'm not going to call it overpayment. Because the market is the market.
Right.
And
this is unprecedented too, in the sense that a lot of with the Nico case, it's something you haven't seen before. It's something you're gonna see again now, but it's something you have
seen it before, but not
to this level.
Not playing out openly. How about that?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And this is played out in the open. It's not like it maybe hasn't happened before, because I believe it has. I'm not going to get into where, but this one played out in the open, and it's a quarterback.
That's another part of it, absolutely.
It's a quarterback. Because it is a quarterback, it makes it a bigger story, especially a quarterback that was a starter in the college football playoff. Loose definition.
He participated in the primetime Saturday playoff game.
He participated in the football version of Carnage. So, look, there's a lot of ambiguity right now.
Sure.
The ambiguity comes in the fact that the House settlement is not checkmarked yet, although it could be as early as next week. Could be. Which would then at least put some parameters in place between revenue sharing, the clearinghouse, and the ability of walk-ons to be grandfathered be on the 105-player roster. Okay? And the 105-player roster confuses me a bit in that I don't understand why the American Football Coaches Association didn't go out and say, hey, we want 120. Because that's what everybody's used to having.
Right.
And putting a designation on, because the 105-man roster doesn't mean you have to have 105 scholarship players. I mean, you're still going to have walk-ons, just not as many walk-ons. Well, I don't understand if that's the case. I mean, why can't you have 120?
Mm-hmm.
I don't, because like the SEC, for example, the SEC's they've decided they're going to go 85 scholarships, which means the other 20 roster spots are going to be walk-ons.
Yeah.
Well, why can't you just go to 120? I mean, it's the most effective way to run a practice, and you've got guys that want to be on these teams.
Sure.
And it's something I'll have to ask James. I don't know, because I don't know the answer at all. And that is whether it was even proposed, how they came up with the 105. Now, 105, I know how they came up with the 105. That's the roster you have to have for preseason.
Yep.
You're not allowed to expand. Under the previous rule, you were not allowed to expand past 105 until classes began. And then when classes began, you were allowed to then expand the roster to 120, 125, whatever you wanted. All right, so I know where they came up with the 105. But the question is going to be, if a guy gets hurt, what are your options at that point? To me, if you're at 120, to me, like, you designate 105 players available. If you're at 120, you can designate somebody to come up. But the transfer portal will open tomorrow. There are already a lot of indications about players getting into the transfer portal. I know you're shocked by that.
No, completely.
I put your name into the media transfer portal. By the way, I do apologize to you. I did not know you won a PAB award.
Did that? Yes.
Which is a tremendous accomplishment.
Yes, a while ago.
It doesn't matter. You still won it, right? Was it you and? Was it Mark Snyder together? Or?
I think it was just me at that point. Yeah, me and Mark did Me and Mark did go the following year for one. I don't think we got that one.
Okay.
Yep, one for Big 30. I think we broadcast Big 33 game.
Okay. All right. That's phenomenal. That is phenomenal. But the next practice is this is the week with the fewest practices. They go today and they'll go Friday, Easter weekend. Then next week, of course, it's going to be Monday, Wednesday, Fast Friday, and then the scrimmage on Saturday, or whatever form they're going to go with. I mean, that was the first question I got. First question I got when I was speaking to a group at the end of March was, what kind of spring game is it going to be? And my answer was and it was very succinct, I don't know.
I don't think.
I said,
does James Franklin know that answer right now? I'm not sure.
I said, whatever form it is, we'll adapt on the air.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. That's up to them as to what they want to do and how they want to do it.
As quick as possible, as entertaining to the fans as possible, and as injury-free as possible.
Yeah. Yep. So, but there we go with that. I mean, there are a couple guys that bear watching. This is a deep team. It's a deep team. So there are certain obvious guys that there's no need to talk about them. You know what they can do. You've seen a lot of them. Okay, a question. You're usually playing, tic-tac-toe with other people in the box.
That's right.
You're probably missing some of the things.
Missing completely.
Like the Singleton and Allen players are pretty good.
They're pretty good, yeah. That 15 behind under center is not too bad.
Right.
I used to love what Joe would say. I don't know names, I know numbers.
Oh, I would be doing the blue-white game with him, and he'd say, Steve, who's 32?
Yeah. Who was that? I remember that.
Right. He goes, I know numbers. I said, well, it's my job to know the names.
One of my all-time favorite moments of the blue-white game, and not so much for the player, because he was off. Those pads were off about 5 seconds after. Richard Gardner obviously gets the interception to Joe Bones.
Yeah. And Joe
was
on the broadcast. Yeah. I'm sitting there. I'm like going, oh, geez, this is going to be great.
You almost didn't want to tell him who it was.
He goes, who's 25? I go, and I felt when I said Richard's name, I felt like the rat. I felt like I was like, oh, great. All right, rock in a hard place. That's Richard Gardner. Quite a play, huh? I'm just looking down at the field. I didn't even give Joe any eye contact. I was like, I felt like this big for answering the question. But if you don't answer it, it's worse. So.
Yeah, that was.
I figured Gardner couldn't hear him anyway.
That's true.
Maybe later he heard him. But at least in that moment, he didn't hear him.
Yeah, he heard him a couple times.
Yay. So, yeah. But a couple of guys, okay? I think that Javen Williams, who has the ability to play both tackle and guard, has been getting extensive reps, and I think has given a good account of himself. I see, for example, I feel there's been a better level of consistency from a Tysier Denmark, as an example. I see, I know Anthony Ivey has a lot of talent. He's got to become more consistent. It's like J.B. Brown went out and he had a couple of days like, whoa, hey, great. And then a couple of other days you're like, okay. Couple of other guys where you look at like Xavier Gilliam has been really good along the way. It's great to see Zariah Fisher back out there. Tamir Robinson.
Yeah.
Tamir Robinson, with the circumstances that have happened with a couple of guys not participating, has been getting exponentially more reps at that Mike spot. He's been terrific. Right? It makes a big difference, right? As to how he's playing out there. And there's certain guys that, to me, always fly under the radar, and then you realize after a while they're really good. And Davian Collins is one of those guys. He made, was it the SMU game where he made 3 plays in a row in the playoff game?
Yep.
You're like, he just quietly goes out. When he does spectacular stuff, you notice it. But he kind of just quietly goes out there and just does his job. And I'll tell you, the Dixon kid, the freshman, it's a player. Now, we'll see how he continues to progress. But he has something to him. He has something to him. So, those are just, and I know I'm missing some guys. The running back position, Tyke Hayes flashes, Corey Smith flashes, Quentin Martin flashes. Yeah, you wouldn't know any of that stuff because, no. You only concentrate on the glory guys.
That's right.
It's the way it's been for you. The glory guys.
That's right. And that I think is the obviously when you look at, and not the glory guys, but I think when you look at this matchup.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. When you look at the blue-white game, I think that's the one thing you probably look for. Who's going to be that guy that, hey, they're going to fight for playing time when it comes to the fall? They're going to be a guy that you're going to see on the field in the fall frequently that you might not know enough about right now. I think that's one of the biggest things that I've always looked for in the blue-white game is where, okay, who's going to stick out to me where I'm going to look and say, hey, look at the depth chart right now. This guy's going to move up. And that's where, obviously, what Singleton is. You know what Haller does. You know what those guys do by now.
Okay. Do you want to know what the blue-white game is, for example, to me? And look, and I know for the fans, it's the one shot you get to see it.
Absolutely.
So I completely get that.
Yeah.
See, to me, it's practice 15.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in other words, I've always used this as an example, but I'll use it again as an example. 2008, it's going to be a quarterback battle between Darrell Clark and Pat Devlin.
Yeah.
Okay. And they go through the spring, and they get to the spring game. And I think Darrell was like 3 of 7 or something like that.
Yeah.
And Devlin put on a show.
Mm-hmm.
He was terrific. And now, what are the fans supposed to think?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, what are they supposed to think?
Sure.
Like, it's the one time they saw it, and Devlin went out there, and was Devlin number 7?
7.
Yeah.
Yep.
7 puts on a show. Okay. Now, the other practices, I'll never forget Darrell Clark, and he took my class in the fall of 2008. And he came up to me one day and said, let me ask you, and he'd already won the starting job at this point. He said, when did you think I was the starter of the team? I said, after the 3rd spring practice. He goes, really? That early? I said, yeah, I could just tell. I said, you had it. And people, because of the blue-white game, and justifiably, because it's the one time they saw it.
Absolutely.
Okay? So I've got that. Right? We're like, I don't understand why I saw the blue-white game. If you're basing it on the blue-white game, absolutely, I can understand why you would think that, because that's the one time you saw him. And my response always was in the preseason, because they were saying, hey, look, it's going to be Clark, whatever. And they're like, how could it be Clark? And I said, guys, just so you know, I I felt like Clark was the better quarterback. I said, because I saw the other 14 spring practices.
Yeah. Yep.
I said, that's the only, that's the best answer I can give you. I said, based on the one that you guys saw, I completely understand why you would say that.
Absolutely.
Completely.
Yeah.
Because, and so it's always, I realize that, like, it seems like practices, like James gives more access. In fact, I think he's given more access in the spring than ever. I mean, every week.
Than any time I've been here.
And there was one where they had an extended, like multiple periods out there watching. But it's always the part you don't see,
right?
Which I am fortunate that I get to see it, so it gives me a better perspective on it. And this is the way it is everywhere. In fact, there are a lot of places where the media can't even get in.
Right.
I mean, James is exponentially more open about practice availability than many of the coaches across the country. I mean, many of them. I think you'd be surprised at the media availability that Penn State has.
Absolutely.
To see practice compared to other places, it's not even close. And so I think the reporters that cover it do a really good job of, picking up what they can along the way. But there's a lot of other stuff that goes on out there. And
absolutely.
Because there's certain things they're trying to see. There's certain people they're trying to see as to what they can do. Okay, hey, Kobe Howard's done really well to this point. Let's put him in this spot, this situation, things like that, just to see what they can and they can't handle. installs are happening all the time.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, I talk about with basketball. Right now, I think everybody knows. I think they've seen I want to call it the tweet on X, but I guess whatever.
Yeah, I think it's called X.
Yeah, right. No. Whatever.
I think it's. I assume it's still tweeting. I have no idea.
Yeah, but of the 18 Big Ten schools, Penn State, right, is still the one that hasn't added anybody from the portal yet.
Right.
Okay. Now that's going to change. I mean, the portal is going to close for men's basketball a week from today. Okay. Okay. There's a lot of players in it. It's not just a question of Penn State finding 4, possibly 5 to go there. They've had visits, right? They had a visit over the weekend. They had a visit yesterday, right? Okay. So they've had visits. They had one player use their offer to then get another offer someplace else, right? And, and they moved on. Talking about Penn State moved on. And things will fall into place at some point. And it's going to fall into place probably, I'd say, over the next 2 to 3 weeks. It'll fall into place, especially once you get the first one. And people are, well, how many people are working out? I mean, there are a lot of places that don't have a lot of players out there right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, Pitt's got 4. Indiana has, 3?
3, if that. Yep.
3. I want to say Cincinnati has 4. There's a bunch of places that don't have a lot of people working out right now. And Penn State's got 6 out there right now working out. Now we know Joe Sidor, I guess. Joe's still out there where he's still in school here. Okay? But I think, didn't somebody say Joe's going to go to Westchester or something like that? He's a walk-on here. So.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
I mean, he just wants to play.
Right.
Okay? So, and this is what you're, the hard part's the waiting game, and the hard part is getting people to say yes. I mean, so essentially what Penn State has is, scholarship-wise, an 8-man roster right now, because you got the 3 incoming freshmen who aren't here yet. Then, of course, the 5. And Yannick is in and out a little bit because, he's put his name into the NBA draft evaluation. Okay. Basketball is coming off. It played out the way I thought it might play out ratings-wise. Did you see the ratings for the Final Four?
I didn't. Figured they'd be higher with being on CBS.
I want you to look up this word. If you could. Just look it up, see what definition. Research.
That's right.
All right. So this is a combination of being on CBS.
Yeah.
And
the teams.
Despite what I always say about narratives.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them are BS.
Mm-hmm.
We could sit here and I could do a week's worth of shows like, nope, they got that one wrong. That narrative's wrong. That narrative's wrong. That narrative's wrong. Over and over again. Right? That's why I tell everybody, do your own work. Right? Oh, there's all chalk. Guess what chalk led to? As I've said a million times on the show, a million times. Cinderella is adorable the first weekend of the tournament.
Yep.
All right, I got an upset. Yeah, it's great. Okay, and that gets people. They love that. But once the first weekend's over with, the TV ratings have always shown Cinderella has a shelf life.
Yeah.
The TV ratings consistently over the years have shown Cinderella has a shelf life. The lowest rated games after the first weekend are always the ones involving the upset teams. Always. It happens over and over again. Sweet 16, it's always the 8th rated game.
Agreed.
Okay. Florida Atlantic gets into the Final Four, as does San Diego State. Okay? How'd that Final Four ratings-wise turn out?
Yeah.
Low. Well, the Sweet 16 ratings were tremendous. The second round ratings were tremendous. Excuse me, records. Now you get to the Sweet 16. They average 15.3 million viewers for the Sweet 16 on Saturday. Average of 15.3 million. Okay? The highest in 8 years. Then they get to the national championship game. 18.1 million. The highest in 6 years. It gets to the point in the tournament where they want to see the brand names play. Okay? And it doesn't matter, for example, if it's the blue blood of basketball, blue bloods of Kentucky or somebody or Duke or somebody like that. If you've got big names in there, Texas, right? A Big Ten team. Not Rutgers.
No.
Okay. But, for example, a Michigan State gets in, Michigan gets in, something like that, and Ohio State were to get there. Okay. And the Blue Bloods, it's all the difference in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Florida, SEC team, Houston, they've become entrenched as a basketball, blue blood. Right? Maybe not the Kansas or whatever, but they're established as being really good and well known. And and Duke is Duke. And Houston beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's Auburn. Now, is Auburn a basketball power? No, but everybody knows Auburn from football.
Yeah.
18.1 million. Final Four Saturday, 15.3 million. Basketball is, for the most part, in a relatively healthy space, in part because of the money.
Right.
And the revenue share will kick in for that as well, because what the players are realizing is that by staying in school, they can make some coin, that there's a reality that they probably are not NBA players, and I'm not in the mood to be a vagabond traveling around Europe at the moment. Right? Eventually that'll come, but I might as well stay and play in the States. Elliot Cadeau, for example, is a long shot to make the NBA.
Right.
Well, he played 4 years at North Carolina, right? He's going to play his 5th year at Michigan. He's going to stay in college basketball, and he's going to make some money. So because of that, you have older players playing in it. As I pointed out, the SEC, which had a phenomenal year, getting 14 out of their 16 schools into the NCAA tournament, 70% of the starters in the SEC this year were seniors. So look at Purdue. Braden Smith announced yesterday, I'm going back to Purdue. Now, my response would be quite simple. What were his options?
Yeah.
His option was not to turn pro.
Right.
His option was not to turn pro. I mean, he is a long shot to play pro basketball. Right? Now, he could be in the G League, go to Europe, whatever. Maybe he gets a two-way contract with somebody, but the two-way contract is.
Right.
All right. Okay. So he's going to go back to Purdue. Good. Well, guess what? That's great for Purdue. And they've got their leader, their point guard. I mean, reigning Big Ten Player of the Year. He has earned all the accolades he's received. I'm not saying it's the strongest Big Ten Player of the Year vote I've ever made. Okay. But he's really good. Okay, he's really good. But he's going back. And as I pointed out, and I know I brought this up last week. When I was speaking to a group, it was the Penn State Quarterback Club group. Yeah, I don't know how many people they had there. 300 people there at least. I mean, a couple of them were wearing bags because I was there. I don't know what that meant.
Well, if it was the Pittsburgh Pirates, they'd have told you to remove it.
Just trying to stay warm. I'm just trying to stay warm. All right. By the way, can I buy a brick?
Oh, man. Fortunately, due to public pressure beyond control, he did apologize for that. Thank goodness. Because he needed to.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
So I said to them, how many of you pined for the old days when players were here at Penn State for 4 years? And almost every hand in the room went up.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of renegades. Oh, I'd rather have them here one. What? No. But every hand in the room went up. And I said, look, now use the football example. Did Drew Shelton, Menga Ioane, Nick Dawkins, Drew Aller, Katron Allen, Nicholas Singleton, Denai Dennis Sutton, Zane Durant, Zakee Wheatley. I said, they're all going into their fourth year. I said, and it's because of NIL and roster retention.
1,000%. Absolutely.
And so I looked at them and I said, I realize that any fan base across the country is not crazy about the NIL era.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I said, but you are getting what you used to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not just, I'll use the example, and I think instantly fans are going to react and say, no, well, this wouldn't have happened at NIL. Ohio State. Yes, they would not have gone out and gotten the talent they got outside. But the talent that stayed inside Ohio State last year is what helped win them a national championship. Does that talent stay without NIL? Absolutely not. That I thought was huge, especially defensively on that team.
Right.
And that is one prime example. And yeah, Penn State this year as well, obviously, is another prime example that you absolutely. I know you frown about NIL. I know it has its flaws. Mm-hmm. They've got to be fixed at some point. It's got to find stability at some point. But absolutely, 100%, these players are staying primarily because of that in a big way. A lot of them. And that's the best part about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah, and it's obviously, and for college basketball, you go back to, I think there's two things that help the game tremendously from the phase to where you saw players leave from high school, and it was that number went up dramatically. Right. Then they put the age limit in, which I thought was a great move because you got at least 1 year of guys at college basketball. Now you're getting even more because of NIL. The game has become better.
Well, because the game has become older.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the big part of it.
Sure.
And as I pointed out, like the SEC had the year of all years, 70% of the starters were seniors.
Seniors. Yeah.
Well, you weren't going to have that 5 years ago.
No. Nope.
And I think that is something that's completely different in today's game. Yeah. And I think there's been an adjustment that has been made by people as to how they build their rosters. I realize if you are in a spot where you're taking over a program and you probably have a thin roster, you've got to go about the job of, like, hey, we got to find talent wherever we can find it. Now, right. That part I understand. But when you look at how the four teams that made the Final Four in college football, what was important for each one of them? Yeah, did they all add a guy? Okay, did they add a guy here or there that helped them? Yeah, but everybody had the same theme. They all had roster retention. And Penn State was able to not only do the roster retention part based on last season, but they also were able to, more importantly, in my opinion, the roster retention for this season.
Yeah.
I realize if you get a high-profile portal player, and in Ohio State's case would be Caleb Downs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then Will Howard. But more Downs. I mean, Howard was good for them, okay? I understand that.
Yeah.
But Downs,
financially,
Downs was phenomenal. Oh, look at that. Look at the rest of the team.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got Judkins.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But what about all the wide receivers? Yeah. Oh, wait. They're there, guys?
Yeah.
The offensive line, okay, Simmons came in, but Simmons missed the last half of the season.
Half of the season, yeah.
All right. That's their guys.
Mm-hmm.
The defensive line, that's their guys.
Linebackers,
that's their guys. Corners, that's their guys. Right? Penn State's in the same boat.
Yeah.
Sure, they've smartly added in an A.J. Harris.
Right.
They took a flyer on a Davian Collins very early. He'd had 1 year at Mississippi State, really, and didn't do much.
Right.
And they saw something in him and got him here. Okay? King Mack, they recruited to begin with, so I'm not going to include him in the bounce back and forth. I'm not going to include him. All right. And Kyron Hudson and Devontae Ross are both players that can flat out help. And Nolan Rucci was invaluable last year.
Absolutely.
He was invaluable last year. But I'm talking about a handful of players here. And not all in the same transfer portal class. And so that's where, that's where we are in all this. Yeah. By the way, 3 Penn State basketball players will be involved in the playoffs. Lamar Stevens had a career-high 31 for the Memphis Grizzlies on Sunday. Did you see that?
Yeah.
If I'd said 40, you'd have said
no. No, I've been, obviously, and that's been, he's just been a huge part of, he's building a career, which is, I think, is a big part of it.
He's getting into the pension plan.
He sure is. 31-6, obviously crushed the Mavericks that day, and it was. But I think
Jalen Pickett's been starting
triple double
for the Nuggets.
At least one triple double.
And then Seth Lundy's on the two-way right now with the Clippers.
Yeah.
So those three are in the playoffs.
Yeah. Absolutely. Pickett's progression has been incredible too. I think the way he's playing, like you've seen,
we saw it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we saw it.
Yeah. We saw it here completely. I think the national level probably saw the scoring Jalen Pickett. They didn't see everything else entirely as they should have. I think now you are seeing that.
Yeah. Players attending in Green Bay next week for the draft. They get to go out and hug the commissioner.
That's right. Handshake and pose for that picture.
Hey,
put the hat on.
Cam Ward. Jackson Dart of Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Milroe of Alabama. Not going, Shedeur Sanders.
I did see that.
Travis Hunter will go. Also, Texas's Matthew Golden and T. McMillan from Arizona. Abdul Carter will go. Now, remember, Carter already had told everybody. He says, I've always dreamed about walking across that stage and hugging the commissioner.
Absolutely.
So, believe me, Abdul, everybody knew he was going to be there. Ashton Genty from Boise State. Will Campbell from LSU. Mason Graham from Michigan. Other players going, Tyler Booker from Alabama, linebacker Jahad Campbell, Georgia safety Malachi Starks, and defensive end Mikael Williams, and Will Johnson of Michigan will be going. Also going will be Josh Simmons from Ohio State and Texas A&M defensive end Shamar Stewart. So next Thursday night, the 24th, round 1. And then the second and third rounds on the 25th. And that on the 24th will start at 8 o'clock at night. Then on the 25th, it starts at 7. And then rounds 4 through 7 in Green Bay will be at noon.
Yeah.
So it's 9 days away.
Yeah.
Right.
It's turned into what seems like 9 days, too. and that's the other part of it.
Well, I've told the story before. I'll tell it again about Jack talking to the players, saying, "Yeah, we played the bowl game," and he says, "Then a month later, we got a phone call about where we got drafted." Mm-hmm. They're like, "What?"
Some players were drafted while they were still in college in the NBA.
Right? There was no combine. He said, no combine. He said they looked at our video. I looked at everybody and go, how silly.
Yeah, how silly.
They actually saw how you could play.
Exactly. Actually saw in-game action and not some, I think he needs to tweak that 40. He ran 4.52 instead of 4.50.
But let's go back. Let's go back to the NIL part with the money for a second. I think it's going to make it a better evaluation for the NFL.
I agree.
When they're seeing older players head-to-head against each other and like, okay, against this guy, he did this, he did that, he didn't do this. I think the evaluation is going to be better for them.
Yeah,
it has
absolutely.
a chance to be. Now, for some people, it'd be like, should have come out after your third year.
Mm-hmm.
Sidney Crosby remains the NHL's most complete player according to his peers. In the annual NHL Players Association poll that was released with 20 members of the Penguins chiming in, no, I'm just kidding, 663 members chiming in on 12 hockey-related questions, he did well. So there's 12 hockey-related questions. Crosby named the NHL's most complete player for the 6th straight season. But he did have a challenger, Alexander Barkov of the Florida Panthers, right behind him, 34% to 31%. He is now cut into the Crosby lead. Smartest player, Crosby, 27%. Nikita Kucherov of the Tampa Bay Lightning was next at 24.7%. And most likely to win a faceoff, Crosby, 20%. Nashville Predators center Ryan O'Reilly at 9.95%. Okay. Kucherov was named the NHL's best playmaker, 48.25%. Edmonton Oilers star Connor McDavid was also a multiple category winner, taking the best overall forward, 74%, beating out Nathan McKinnon of the Colorado Avalanche, who had 9.6%. That's sort of a rout. And best overall skater, 66.4% over Cale Makar of the Avalanche, 11.4%. Makar, by the way, was named the NHL's best defenseman in the poll, 71.78%. Wide margin over Quinn Hughes of the Vancouver Canucks, 7.4%. I was hoping Hughes would play for the U.S.
Yeah.
I know he was hurt. His brother played, then his brother got hurt. Okay. Best goaltender. Okay. Offer the poll's most surprising result. Because the number one goalie, Andrei Vasilevsky of the Tampa Bay Lightning, 31.1%. Igor Shesterkin of the Rangers, 23.6%. And Connor Hellebuck, expected to win the Vezina Trophy for the second straight year, got third, 15.6%. Bruins forward David Pastrnak and Maple Leaf center Austin Matthews tied for the player with the best fashion sense. 15.75%.
His fashion matters so much in the game of hockey.
Kevin Hayes of the Penguins was named the player that would make the best broadcaster when their career was done. and the best ice. No, there's a difference. No, there is a difference. I don't poo-poo that. Okay? Best ice for the 7th consecutive season goes to?
Can't be the Penguins.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say, PPG, whatever it's called.
Oh, you're just not into the
Consol, PPG,
Excuse me, they're
whatever.
going to be playing at West Shore home field at Beaver Stadium.
That's right.
Right?
Oh, I know. No, these sponsors, all credit to them. Acrisure Stadium, Acrisure deserves their flowers too. But unfortunately, fans 9 times out of 10 will say Heinz Field. That's the drawback of that.
Actually,
and
you know what? Over time, I have heard less and less of that.
Yeah.
I actually have. Yeah. Bell Center in Montreal, best ice, got 44.96%, 7th straight year. Finally, the NHLPA members were asked what innovative rule from the Professional Women's Hockey League they would like to see brought over to the NHL. 29.7% said the jailbreak goal, in which a power play for a minor penalty ends if a shorthanded goal is scored.
Yeah.
Right behind it, I like that
idea too.
I like that idea.
Yeah,
right behind it was the standings format for the women, which is 3 points for a regulation win, 2 points for a shootout or overtime win, and 1 point for a shootout or overtime loss. I can live with that.
Yeah.
Those are actually 3 pretty good rules. I like that.
Yeah.
All right. It's not bad.
Speaking of hockey, obviously, Penn State, Arseny Sergeyev Calgary Flames on a 2-year deal. Congratulations to him.
Yep. Yeah. 1 year here, but it was quite the year.
Well, a heck of a year. Absolutely.
And Aiden Fink was a second-team All-American.
Yes. Yep.
All right. At least in the first one that was brought out. Messi.
I did see this.
Wants to play in the World Cup. According to Inter Miami teammate Luis Suarez.
Yeah. Which
Messi, who is 62, who is 37.
Seems like it.
37, the most valuable player in the last World Cup, has not announced he intends to play.
Yeah.
But Suarez, when asked if he has spoken about retirement with Messi, told the paper, "No, we don't talk about it," jokingly many times, but he has also said he has a desire to play in the next World Cup. Obviously, after being away from the national team for a while, that desire is fading more on my side than on his, but we haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah, and obviously the game of soccer has, well, first of all, as great as Messi is, it did not expand the game of MLS that much. It really just didn't. But I think when it comes to the world level, obviously worldwide soccer's popularity is still massive, and having a guy like Messi in there is going to expand it even more. And I think soccer was fortunate. Last World Cup, you have Messi and Mbappe literally going head-to-head for the World Cup on the line. I think that obviously was huge for the game. There's no doubt worldwide. Having said that, America's still not.
Look, worldwide,
it's
going to be there no matter what.
Yes, and Americans not.
Okay. Turks and Caicos could play. Okay. Right.
Behavior of the fans may not happen, but
here in the U.S., next year is a pivotal point, and in 2031 it's a pivotal point because the Women's World Cup's going to be here.
Yeah.
And if you really want to grow the game and get the interest in the game, it's not as if the United States doesn't have. Now, they're not going to use these facilities, okay? But it's not as if the United States doesn't have marvelous soccer-only facilities. I mean, I've been to the L.A. Galaxy facility. What's the other team called that's in L.A.?
I only know the Galaxy. I didn't know there was another. I'm trying to think.
Oh, God.
Well, I got to admit to you, my soccer knowledge. American soccer knowledge.
Look, I got to admit, like most of your sports knowledge is just like it's been disappointing. It's
is it literally called the soccer club?
I don't know if they're called whatever, but they're
LAFC.
LAFC. Yeah. So LAFC, that place is gorgeous.
Yeah,
because it's right next to the Coliseum.
Nice. Yeah, I gotta fully admit I have not watched an LAFC game. I've got a full disclosure to the listeners here. Right. Sincerest apologies if you were waiting for my heavy take on LAFC.
What are we doing here? I mean, the Columbus Crew, their facility's really nice.
Yeah.
Really nice. A little older, but really nice. But they're not going to play in any of these places. Orlando is a really nice place. Okay? They're not going to play in any of these places. They're going to be playing in stadiums when they come here. And it's a huge deal that it's coming here.
Right. Absolutely.
And the United States is going to do it right.
Yeah.
As opposed to the last one.
Yeah.
It never should have gone there.
No.
That's me.
No, I'm 100% agreement.
Okay. Never should have gone there.
And the other great part of it is...
Oh, you ever see Philadelphia's play with the Union play?
Yeah.
Really nice.
Yeah, absolutely
I like
nice.
That place. That's
absolutely
really
nice. Yeah, and especially... Geez, I should not say this. Especially the area it is in, extremely nice. Yeah, it's...
Do
it's...
you wake up every day trying to make enemies?
I will...
I mean, is that what you're trying to do? Every day you wake up and you like...
They have done an exceptional
job.
And
on this show, you achieve the goal
they have done an exceptional
making
job
more
with,
people
with
mad at the show.
I'll tell you, they might be. But the other part of it is... the folks at Chester, I love you, you know that. But I think the other big part of it, with it coming to the U.S., you also have updated stadiums now.
What's next, Altoona? What are you going to do?
Hey, I have
Johnstown.
I have seen too many state high seasons. Too many state high seasons end at Mansion Park. I can tell you that. The one thing I think also with the World Cup coming to the U.S., the stadiums themselves are going to be much better now than they were in 1994. I think you had, absolutely, you have better state-of-the-art stadiums, and I just talk about.
I mean, MetLife now exists. AT&T Stadium now exists.
Yeah, Lincoln Financial Field is incredible. Obviously, Levi Stadium.
Field.
Yeah,
I mean, you've got a lot of better places.
Yeah,
you still have. Are they going to go to Soldier Field?
I don't know.
Let's see. Let's just look it up.
What about Jerry World? Are they going to Jerry World?
No, that's what I said. AT&T
Stadium. They are going to AT&T.
I apologize for giving the actual name.
Actual name. Yeah. I'm telling you, this
World.
Feel bad for the sponsors sometimes. The money they pay, they deserve
World Cup
better
cities.
flowers.
Okay, host cities and dates.
Yes.
2026 World Cup. It's the first time I've ever been on the FIFA site. Okay.
I don't feel as bad about my lack of LAFC knowledge now.
Okay, Toronto and Vancouver. Guadalajara, Mexico City, Monterrey. Okay. The United States cities, Atlanta. Now, they're going to do this in the Dome.
That's this facility.
But what I was told was they're going to take out the field turf, and they're going to put grass in there.
Nice.
And I think they're doing it this year because they want Atlanta FC to play on it.
Nice.
To see how it is, because they want to make sure it's right for next year. Boston, that would be Foxborough.
Foxborough, yeah.
Dallas is AT&T Stadium. Yeah. NRG Stadium in Houston. Again, these are all places they'll have to install grass trays. Arrowhead, Kansas City.
That'll be an interesting one.
Los Angeles, I think it's SoFi.
SoFi, yeah.
It's not going to be the Rose Bowl. No. Miami will be at Hard Rock. They don't have to do anything there. Mm-hmm. MetLife Stadium, Jersey, Lincoln Financial Field. Oh, God.
Soldier Field is on the list by the sound?
No, Seattle. that's a hot.
Yeah, that's
Seattle. The Seattle Sounders, they draw really well.
Yeah.
And Seattle, they'll have to put trays of grass in there, and then the disastrous one, Levi's Stadium.
Oh well, that place, yeah.
It's like
it is.
It'll be fun to see championship something in there.
I was gonna say, yeah, there and in AT&T Stadium both, but
it'd be fun to see championship something.
Yeah, and Levi's Stadium is lucky in the sense that they first built that stadium. 49ers couldn't play a Monday Night Football game at home.
Yeah,
because it was that poor parking there. Yeah. They've done an exceptional job improving that, and because of that, you get rewarded a Super Bowl. You get rewarded big events like the World Cup.
Right. So there you are. Here's the story. You really another great show for you. You know how scary it is to review the show when we're done.
It is, I'll tell you. The folks in Philadelphia are saying they thought we thought you loved us, which I do. Just haven't been to a Union game. I'll have to get there.
What, is this your moment to make up for it? You ripped the entire city of Chester, ripped them. You ripped southeastern Pennsylvania. In a subtle way, you ripped Altoona. Right? You ripped Johnstown.
I don't even think I mentioned Johnstown.
Believe me. They hear you. They hear you talk in code.
Oh, boy.
You're a person consumed with hate. And if anybody knows, it's the precious people who own Patches the dog.
That's right.
It all started there.
That's right.
But we found out you won an award. And then the rumor is you threw the trophy at Patches the dog.
And that's why I no longer have it.
You don't have it anymore? Okay, good. Okay. All right. So you win the award working with somebody else, but you never told them you won it? So you got both trophies?
No. They have theirs.
Okay. I'm thrilled for you. I mean, you earned it. I mean, believe me, anything you get, you earn. You know how I feel about you. So we kid around. We kid around a ton. I think the world of them. So,
yeah.
All right. All the praise. I'm starting to get the shakes.